Welcome to the Bootpack Show. Today we got, no offense, Bob, one of my favorite photographers in the snow world, Andrew Miller, to grace our presence.
He's one of my favorites too. I don't want to make it all awkward though in the beginning, so.
How you doing, dog?
Doing well.
Nice.
Doing well. Stoked to be here. Yes.
In the dojo.
In the dojo.
Wayne's World.
Wayne's World, yeah. Yeah, man. Psyched to be down here, and here's got a sweet spot. And
Oh yeah. Working on the house.
yeah. I'm back in Utah for a little bit. I lived here for like 10 years, and I just this summer I decided to sell our house out here, and kind of start some roots in California. And I mean, I grew up there, so we just moved back to the Sierras, and so yeah, kind of just finishing the house and all these projects, and stoked to kind of close the chapter here. I'm stoked, but I'm bummed because I have so many friends out here.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I like it out in California.
Definitely.
Nice.
And I need to come visit.
Yeah.
Let's get it going. Your humble beginnings. You grew up in SoCal, right?
Yeah. I grew up. I was born in Loma Linda. It's like a little
Where's
town. It's like in the Inland Empire. It's kind of funny if you talk to people from like California. It's like my area code is still a California area code, so it's 909. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of 909ers. But it's like it's where pretty much like where motocross began, and like Corona, like the metal militia, and like all these expensive race trucks. And so like so much of the snowboard industry is down there. And so like when I give them my number or whatever, and they look at me because they're all from the beach, and like they instantly like for sure judge me because of my phone number. I'm like, no, I swear, man. Like I'm not that type of guy, but yeah, it's like 45 minutes from like Huntington Beach.
Okay.
And it's like 45 minutes from Bear Mountain, kind of in this little inland area. So
I probably drove through it.
yeah, if you ever been to Bear, or like
Yeah.
if you just come from Utah, come down the 15 Cajon Pass,
Like
and
the
you're going
base
to the
of
beach.
those mountains.
Yeah, it's like this little kind of funnel area, not really anything special.
What's that little mountain that's down there that's super low elevation, that's like below Bear? That's like only randomly open sometimes?
Oh, Snow Valley.
Snow
That's
Valley.
where I learned how to snowboard.
No way.
Yeah, I don't even know if they get snow anymore.
Yeah.
It's even back in the day, like, it used to be amazing. They had like one of the first snowboard parks, and like, I mean, you talk to all these guys like Gooch, and a lot of people grew up riding there. Like back in the 90s, it was like the heyday for like jeans and old school, like, you know, crazy looking boards, and had a really cool park. And there used to be like a huge, like full on skate park in the parking lot with like vert ramps, and like it was full on.
I think I've seen a photo from like.
It was called Sky Ridge, but they spelt it like super weird.
Huh.
If I
remember driving down. I was like in the car with Yosh, and he was driving me to the airport, and we went down, and it was so weird. I was like, this place is so low. There's no way this gets snow. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, that's where I still remember. I still like have vivid memories of like, because my dad was a big skier. He grew up in Colorado.
Okay.
and he was just down to take me up, and like I think I was on skis for maybe 1 or 2 years, and like saw some guys snowboarding there, and I was like, I want to do that, and he was like, let's do it. Sick. And so he was like, I have these old school photos of me doing like a little method on like a Kemper board, and like I still remember those like super huge like Vans boots where they had like the metal clickers on the side, and you would like click them in.
Yep.
You know?
Dude, we had those at Milo. We had one on display.
Yeah. I still remember that, dude, like so vividly. And it's like such warm weather there all the time that you can literally like all year snowboard in like a t-shirt or a sweatshirt.
Wow.
So like you don't even need outerwear, and like beanies or goggles, like always like a backwards hat or whatever, like sunglasses. Yeah. So definitely some funny like humble beginnings like there.
And then
Snow Summit before Bear.
Yeah.
Because Bear used to just be kind of a random resort, and it wasn't just like the full park all the time. And Snow Summit had the awesome, mile-long park that was like night sessions, and in like high school we'd go up there like every Friday night, and the lights would be out and the snow slushy, and you'd just be like lapping the park, and that was like some of my best memories for sure. And then like you would see, like I still remember like the funniest story is like we were riding up the lift, and it was like during the Nixon Jib Fest days, and we were on the lift when JP Walker did that. He had his shirt off and like shirt on. Yeah, and he did like a backside 450 or something on that super kink rail, and we were riding on the lift when that happened, and those guys were sessioning. Yeah, and like it was so cool because they would like have all those features for the Nixon Jib Fest. and then they would put them back into the park. And so I still remember hitting the S rail for the first time. Damn. And like the super kink, like whatever, and like all those weird boxes, and like just totally eating shit, but like, you know, like being so hyped to like watch.
To hit that,
it used to be my favorite movie, man. Like
totally.
Nixon Jib Fest, and like I was such a like I didn't know anything about powder or mountains. Like I remember fast forwarding through that shit.
Yeah, dude,
like,
that's how I was.
Totally, I think that's how everyone was, and or I mean, at least you know, for me, it's just like I wanted to skateboard and I wanted to hit rails, and it was just funny to see the evolution. You know, go from like you know like seeing like you know Capita and Corey Smith and me like wearing fucking jeans and shit. It's embarrassing, but I have photos. And
it's cool though, man. That's like what got you psyched.
Bomb drops.
How old are you?
Lots of bomb drops.
Like
this is in high school, so like you know, I mean
16 to 18.
Yeah, probably younger than that. Yeah. You know, like I mean, obviously in middle school we couldn't drive, and so my parents had they had an old shitty van, and I still remember I used to get really car sick, and so the road, if you ever been to the road to Bear, it's savage, and so I'd always be in the back of my parents' van, and I think I puked every single time, even to this day. Like my mom has sacrificed her like purse, and like I'll puke no matter what. Even to this day, I still like you know on trips.
How's
like
New Zealand for you?
I've never been to New Zealand, but like Chile, like going up to Farallones and stuff. It has that one road has 100 switchbacks, and I've like just been like trying to play it cool with like the first time I went there. Like all these guys are in the car, you know, like Pat Moore, like Gooch, or like whoever, and I'm just like, so.
Dude, I've had New Zealand bad because you're on the other side of the road. I remember I got off the plane one time. We drove to like to Wanaka, and I almost ralphed. I was on like the verge of ralphing. Dude,
I'll do it all the time, man. For sure.
That's awesome.
I'm down.
So you skated before you snowboarded?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, grew up skateboarding and a little bit of surfing. Like I had a bunch of cousins who lived in Huntington Beach, and so like I would go down there and just mess around, but nothing like really serious. Like you know, I could get up and do it. And like we always kind of like were like, you know, surfing's so hard. Like we kind of thought the surfers were like kooky, and like those guys are idiots. And we were just like such skate rats. And then you know, snowboarding was like obviously you know skating was so easy. You know, like that's why everyone know, skates, because you can just fucking go out of your house.
So easy. So
easy and so cheap, you know, and so snowboarding was like a luxury that we would do on the weekends, and then eventually we started getting more into it, and you know, and then transitioned from going to Bear and you know all those places up to Mammoth, and you know where we had our own cars, and my you know a few of my kids or buddies that I grew up with like have had like family cabins in Mammoth since like you know it was around, you know, and so we always had a place to go stay up there, so we would go there every single weekend because we wanted to hit huge jumps, and you know the parks were so much bigger, and you know that compared to Bear, and so we would you know literally I think through most of my like 10th, 11th, 12th graders in Mammoth every single weekend, and we started you know doing like the USA SA.
Nice.
Competing and stuff, which was kind of funny, and then kind of getting on like a little bit of flow from some different companies, and like really trying to like take it more serious and get better, and so yeah, that was kind of like the evolution from Bear, and then you know we still skated a lot, but it kind of like was a little bit on the back burner, for the exception of like you know skating at the Mammoth Park and Shady Rest and stuff.
Oh yeah, the old one. I've never been to that one.
It's fun. I went there the other day with my daughter because it's the new one's like kind of a little crazy.
Yeah.
During the day, but like sometimes, it's still really fun. They got an old like little pyramid and like a 2 foot little like bank, and they have this cool sick Jersey barrier.
Just like in the parking lot. See, that's like my shit. I think I like it more than the other parts.
I just to go like she can just go run around and play on shit, and I'll just keep kind of skating. And I'll do that too at the Jeffy Park. Like we'll go there in the morning and no one's there. And so she's 2 now, and so I'll take her, like, I'll go into the bowl, and I'll take her, like, I'll walk with her into the bowl, and then she just can play in the bowl, and I can still do laps around the whole park, but she can't get out. So, and she loves it. She'll, like, run around. I have to show you these videos, and she'll run around. She has so much fun, and I can still, like, legitimately, because it's a huge bowl.
Yeah. I
can still pump around, and no one's around, and
it's like a
gigantic baby gate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like when I'm on daddy daycare, that's our morning. That's for sure.
Awesome. Sounds like a great morning.
Yeah.
So you moved to Mammoth after high school, right?
Yeah. So right after high school, I was I did like a semester, not even a semester, like just this course My dad, he's like a lab tech, so he's a clinical laboratory scientist, and so he works like when you go get your blood drawn or like you have tests done or whatever on any type of your, your pee. He's looking at it under the microscope, and so he's done that forever, and so he manages this laboratory in Riverside, and so, going like coming out of high school, you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do, like whatever, how am I going to get a job? And so he's like, here, take this, like go do this 1 month course, and you can be certified to be like a lab assistant, or where you can draw blood, you can do like basic tests, and it's super cheap, and then you could be making like $25 an hour.
Oh wow.
Working at a little lab. And so that was my, I was like, oh, he's like, I have connections up in Mammoth, it's a tiny little hospital, so go take this course, and then when you move up to Mammoth, you'll have a super rad job that you can only, I was only working 3 days a week, making like, at 18, like making $25 an hour or whatever.
So
like,
much money.
What? And which is funny is that's how I bought all my camera gear. That's how like I afforded all this stuff, to be able to like get a snowmobile and whatever. And that was kind of before, or that was after. I was just working at the lab and snowboarding and like really trying to get into it, and then I blew my knee out really bad in Mammoth, like on one of the big jumps, just like messing around doing like on one of the smaller jumps, just overshot it, landed, hyperextended, and like my knee popped, and that changed my whole psyche, because like growing up, you're always taking photos of your friends, and these days everyone's on iPhones, but like back then, like I remember we used to have disposable cameras, and we would like, someone would be like, all right, here's a disposable camera, like you take photos of me this lap, or like, you switch off, and then when the roll was done, it was done. And so you'd sit next to the box, and you'd be like, the guys come, you'd be like, chink, I have no idea what shutter speed or anything, and I still like remember looking through that, like, oh, that was a sick one, or oh, that was a sick one, and we used to do that with skateboarding too.
Yeah.
Little disposable cameras, and because you can get them, for like
so
$5, and you got 24 shots or whatever, 36 shots depending, and so we were always doing that, making little edits, and I took like a photography class in high school, and there was some darkroom stuff, and it was all film class, but nothing like just super intro, and so moved to Mammoth. I think I was 17, and then was there for a year, blew my knee out, and then for my 18th birthday, my parents bought me like a Canon like 20D,
Sick.
And so it was right at that time where it was like everyone was kind of going to digital, because you remember the 20 Canon 20D, that was like the camera for a while. I mean, that kind of entry level, but at the time it was like, it was an awesome camera to have with the little kit lens, and I forget why I asked for that or whatever. But so they bought me that camera. I had kind of had it, was shooting a little bit, just for fun, just to have a camera. And then I blew out my knee, and then, it like reshifted my whole focus, where I was like, oh man, I still want to be a part of everything. I was like considering not having knee surgery, because there's this crazy like doctor who was like, well, you can do it, you just got to get really strong, and like,
was it your ACL that
it was
you blew?
It was my ACL, like full tear, and he was like, you can do it, like people do it all the time with the ACL, because I didn't want surgery. I was like, I don't want to go, I'd never had surgery, I'd never broken a bone or done anything in my life, and so I was like, oh, okay, and I had a brace, and I was working out, or like, rehabbing it, and then, at the same time I could still get on the hill, like with my brace like locked out, but I could go really slow, so I just, I would just go and post up at Main Park and just shoot photos, of my friends, because at that time, like, Cody Rosenthal was like crushing it, it was like Max Bedell, like, it was the height of the grenade guys, where all of those guys lived there, so any day at Main Park, there's like, 30 pros, and every person hitting all the jumps is going crazy, and like, so you could just sit there anywhere you wanted.
Yeah.
You could have photos of Danny Cass and Shane Flood and, like, all these guys, in the pipe, and so I just started doing that just because I wanted to still be out there. I didn't want to sit at home, and I still hadn't got surgery yet, and so it just kind of turned into a thing where I just go out there and I'd post up on the deck of a jump for a while, and then I'd go post up or whatever, and then I started, like, looking at the photos, and I don't even remember what I did with like editing stuff back then. I don't even remember. I think I just uploaded it to the computer, and it was like, I didn't even edit it. It was like either it was like a good photo or it wasn't.
Yeah. You were shooting JPEGs probably, or
100%,
something like that.
Yeah. And so I just started doing that more. Yeah.
It's crazy to think, like, how psyched were you to just go stand in the park and shoot photos?
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
You're psyched, right?
Yeah.
It's like the
super
coolest
psyched.
shit ever.
Yeah. It was, and then I still remember my first day, like, going out to, like, shoot a jump. They call it, like, bring a friend jump in Mammoth, because it's, like, right out, like, below Mammoth Rock, and you hike out, like, 2 seconds, and you're there, and it was, like, Max Spadell, and, like, Greg Bokenkamp, and I think Gabe Taylor. Sick. And we built this little step down, and by that time, my knee had healed. I ended up having surgery. My knee healed, and then I remember shooting photos of them, and it was like got some cool shots, and then I tried to hit it myself. I fucking tried. I tried I was like, oh, these guys are doing. I was like, this thing looks so fun, and like first try, I tried like a frontside 5 or something, just fucking tomahawk all the way down, and that like solidified like okay. You're not. I never jumped into powder, and it was a decent sized like little step down.
Frontside 5 too. That's a hard move.
Dude, that was my go-to, man. That was my go-to. Yeah.
I love stuff like that though, where you take like it's like a shitty moment at the time, like you blew your knee out, but that was like such a pivotal point in your life.
Yeah.
Like it changed your life for the better.
Yeah.
Technically, like that, you like had to blow your knee out.
Yeah, I mean it got me. I had to. Yeah. I mean it got me to where I was now, and luckily she's still
doing good now.
She's still doing good. Like that.
Yeah, you gotta fix that stuff.
Yeah.
So who was like your biggest inspiration at the time when you got into photography? Were you like stoked on photographers, or was it mostly just shredders?
Dude, I'll be honest. Like I didn't know anything. I wasn't.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, who's your inspiration and all this shit. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't remember.
All your friends you were shooting photos.
Yeah, like I didn't. I mean, obviously, like I when I was younger, I would study magazines and stuff like that. And I think when I started shooting, I started like really like looking at the names and captions, and that's when I kind of started doing that more with the photographers,
Mm-hmm.
And so like man, back then it was like, obviously Andy Wright was a huge one, and Frody Sandbeck, and like Epson Lystad, and like for me, but now like I don't know, you look at snowboard stuff and you want to emulate that, but at the same time, like, I don't, like, even nowadays, I'll flip through stuff, but I don't really try to, like, I don't feel like I gain a lot of inspiration from the snowboard world as much as I used to. Like, I'll still kind of, like, flip through and be like, oh, like, these days it's, I don't want to sound like a dick or anything, but, like, these days there's just so much images all the time.
With Instagram, it's like you're bombarded with it.
Yeah, and so, for something for you to really stand out, where it's like I'm flipping through a mag, like think, and for me to like stop and flip back and be like, whoa, that's a really cool photo.
Yeah.
Or like really stop you in your tracks.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I don't know for you, but I feel like that's more rare these days for me, where it's like, why did they pick this photo, like soggy photo, like, I mean that probably sounds really bad.
No, but that's...
But like, I don't know.
It's the truth, because we see so much imagery because of our phone.
Yeah.
It's like we're numb to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we were talking earlier where you're saying like you see this photo that's this big on your phone, right?
Yeah.
And maybe the rider's like this big, but then when you're looking at like a gigantic book like this where you can actually
open it up,
see the context of everything that's going on in the photo. Like look at this thing. I don't know whose photo that is, but like dude, that's psycho. But if you see that on your phone, you're just like...
You can't even see the...
Yeah, you're like, oh, what? I can't tell what's going on.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially like, fast forwarding, shooting all this stuff, and then, being where I am now, and shooting more like big mountain stuff, and, I feel like I just keep... my compositions keep getting looser and looser, man, and I like it.
Yeah.
I really like it, and... So it's hard to translate like a lot of my best shots from Alaska or wherever that I love, like you posted on Instagram, and it's like hard to feel that same effect versus opening a double page spread and being like, wow, this is like so there's no...
You get lost in the photo.
Yeah, totally. There's no stupid, like the art director didn't go crazy, and there's nothing, like just pure photo, like that's still such a good feeling.
Yeah.
I think for anyone to like, even if it's your photo or you're in the photo or you're just looking at your friend's photo, like say I open a, whatever magazine and it's like one of your shots and it's like, yeah, like sick, Bob, I'm stoked to see it. your photo in there. Like gets me just as
more
high.
Than
yeah, because it's like I know you and
yeah,
and I'm like, yes, that's cool because I know, you know, like I know what goes into getting a photo like that or whatever, and you know, some people are just like, that sucks. You know, like such like a, it's like magazines are turning through like a swipe through. It's like such a swipe through. Like I guess that's
ADD
like,
world.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's just fucking a swipe through thing, you know, and what's also interesting is like just what you know, Instagram or just the social world has like started, you know, it's like a double-edged sword. Like for me, like if I didn't have to do it, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, 100%.
I really don't enjoy it. I don't like writing captions.
That's the worst part.
Oh yeah, I was thinking, it's like, what if you could do Instagram with no captions?
Yeah.
Because like you get these people with a shitty photo or whatever, and they'll write like a whole story of like what this photo means. Like, some huge
I don't even
quote,
have the attention span to read that caption.
You're like, sorry, I can't do it, you know. But like, it's interesting because it now gives, you know, people that it was a lot harder to like, you know, get you know, eyes on your photos and stuff like that. And now like maybe you're a younger kid and you know you're doing your thing and you're uploading and you're like, that's your outlet. Yeah. And maybe some people will see your stuff that wouldn't have seen it before, you know. But at the same time, you know, you get these people who are like, no one's ever heard of you, like, you know, but like on Instagram you have, you know, this massive following. But then in the real world, you're not, like, say for snowboard terms, like, I'm sure there's people like this, I don't know who they are, but probably more in other fields, but like, you know, like say you have like over 100,000 followers, you're getting like crazy likes on your photos, all those comments, this crazy interaction. But then in the snowboard world, where are you?
Yeah.
Are you getting any jobs? Who are you shooting with? Are you in the magazines at all? Like, where are you? And you look at some of the top guys in the snowboard world right now.
And they don't
even do Instagram.
Yeah.
Like Oli hates it, won't do it.
Yeah.
Andy Wright, he'll do it a little bit, and he won't. You know. You know, you look at other, you know, some of the other guys, like Scott Surface a little bit, you know, but, you know, so it's like these guys are crushing it. These are all the top, you know, even Tim Zimmerman, like, you know, he doesn't really post too much. It's all kind of like just his day to day. But these guys, they're the top guys. They're the top 5, whatever, crushing it. They're the ones getting all the photos, you know, like you open a thing and it's everybody, it's them. But they're like, also from a little bit of a different generation.
Yeah.
And so they're like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm getting paid. Like, I don't need this. Whereas, you know, like maybe, I mean, I'm probably 10 years younger than most of those guys. And so I feel like I'm kind of on the this weird fold of in between both where I don't want to do it, but I feel like I have to do it. Totally. And I feel like I've gotten, you know, jobs because of it, and you know, and sometimes it is a fun outlet. Like when I started working with photography, I started working for this website, and my, you know, where I really cut my chops is they used to send me out to shoot all the contests. So I went through the whole contest circuit from like X Games to
SnowRev. Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, so if everyone remember, or you know, like Ed from Boo
Does
Loco,
that still exist?
Yeah. No, it doesn't. Him and another guy, Johnny Sentai, started this, you know, essentially like just an online magazine, like, man, 2000.
I used to read that one.
2007, 8 or whatever, and that was my first gig as a photographer. Like, you know, because before, like I was saying, I was working in the hospital, and I was working, and so I took like 2 years off where they were actually paying me, and I had enough money to not have to work, and then it all kind of fizzled out. But I used to go and do the X Games and US Open, and every single contest there was, I went there. And I covered for them. And so I feel like that's a really where I kind of learned like my chops of how to shoot fast and how to like really tell a story, because, you know, I would be there and I'd see Blotto, or I'd see the guys from Transroller, I'd see the guys from Snowboarder, and I'd see where they were shooting, like their angles, you know, like them running around. I still remember this at the US Open. I remember oh, that's Blotto, and you know, he's like running around, like jumping on scaffolding, like here, like shooting through little nets in the trees, like. And I'm like, whoa, what is this guy doing? You know, and then you could see his gallery that, you know, a day or whatever after, and then I could scroll through, and it was like kind of a learning, you know, kind of like a mini school for me, because I could go shoot and know where I shot. I could see where those guys are, what lenses they were using, and then I could see what they produced at the end of the day, and then compare it to like what I shot. and be like, oh, okay, you know, like, oh, Blotto did that, or like that angle, or, you know, okay, he's got a fisheye, he's gonna like get really close to the knuckle and look up, and, you know, or he's got a long lens, he's way the fuck away from him, and, you know, and so I did that for 2 years, and during that 2 years, I kind of like was like, you know, started to be like, I really don't like contests.
Yeah, that's the question I was gonna ask you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Did you enjoy it while you were doing it?
I didn't know. I just didn't know, man. I was.
Well,
like,
you were psyched though, right? Cause
yeah,
you were
yeah.
there, like shooting.
I mean, I was like, hey, like, you know, I still was like not really, you know, this was when I was still living in Mammoth, and then during that time I transitioned from Mammoth to Utah, and I like the first time I came here, I rode Brighton. It was like a 2 or 3 foot, just like your classic Brighton like blower day, and I was like, what is this? Like, I have no idea. I remember riding Millie chair and then we did a little hike, you know, off crest or whatever, you know, just like the 10-minute turns, or I think maybe it was like a Pioneer shoulder. And like, you know, like my stance was huge, and I was riding the small board, and like I remember kept like sinking and like, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. It was so, you know, just your classic Brighton day, and that was like, okay, I think I could live in Utah, like, you know, and by that time, you know, a bunch of my friends, because like I not grew up, but like Harrison and Mac and Sam and all those guys from Spideli's, you know, everyone lived in Mammoth. And then Sam came out here. The older brother, yeah. And then everyone was like, Mac was like, yeah, I'm thinking about moving to Utah. I was like, oh, me too. And at the time, me and my lady, her brother lived out here, and she wanted to go to nursing school, and so it just was like a perfect shift because I already had friends here. You know, there's awesome snow, it was a new place.
So cheap to live.
Yeah, and so I think that was like 2008 or 9 when we first moved out here, and then that was like, you know, the next chapter, and like, whoa, it's powder. It's pretty awesome. Like, let's figure this out. Let's get out there, and then that was when I was kind of like Snow Rev was on the tank, and I was like done shooting contests because I was like, this is not my style, not my scene, you know. And I still remember like going to the X Games and you can't go here, you can't go there, get out of here, like your pass, and just being like, I hate this.
It's so lame.
I hate this.
Probably good practice though, because people are just firing.
Oh yeah, it was, for like I don't discredit it at all. Like it was pivotal in me learning my chops and like, you know, figuring out to shoot fast and being able to tell a story, because all these other guys had, you know, 2 or 3 other photographers, and so they have this rounded out gallery, whereas me, I was thinking about like, okay, I wanted to tell a story from the start of the day to the end of the day, go up to the guys dropping in, to the jumps, to like capture every rail, then get a couple like candid shots in between, and then get the podium, and then you have a 20 to 30 image gallery of like not just the same angle, you know.
Yeah. And when it's just one person, you're hustling.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that really kind of started me and my basis to like my love of storytelling, and like coming back from like, you know, say just, you know, any day out in the backcountry or wherever, and having a timeline from the beginning to the end of the day. Yeah. And if they're just like, hey, give me a story from just today, I could give you a really cool story. And obviously that's taken years to refine, but now that's like, you know, I could go out, I feel comfortable going out with people for 2 days on decent conditions and come back with a, like, you know, knowing exactly what I need to shoot, what gets used, what doesn't. And I'm sure you've refined that over the years, where you're like, you instantly see that and you're like, that's a good shot, I need to shoot that, stop. Like, stop everything. Like when you have that little voice in your head where you're like, that's a good photo, always stop. Yeah. And take that photo.
I feel like I've learned that from you just being on trips. I feel like all the trips I've gotten, like, oh, okay.
Because
every
time,
this is a good spot to slash.
Yeah, because every time you think that in your head, and then you don't do it, and you keep going, at the end of the day, you're like
thinking about it.
You're like, damn it, I should have taken that photo, or whatever. And so even if you're driving your car on a road trip, or even like for people who are, you know, learning to shoot photos, or even like anyone for their Instagram account. If you think it's a cool photo, stop and
it's worth the memory.
It's worth that, yeah, you know, because you'll think about it later. And so yeah, you know, that's kind of how I was here in Utah, and then, you know, Snow Rev tanked, and then I got a job working at Salt Lake Regional. Do you guys know that hospital there?
Yeah.
It's like by the U. So I was back in the laboratory working, you know, 3 days a week, 3/12s, to get my 36 hours, get health insurance, get paid pretty well.
Wow.
And still shooting photos.
Damn.
That's sick.
And luckily, you know, I had some really cool bosses there that would let me go on trips, and so, you know, I'd still kind of do stuff around here, and nothing really major, and, you know, I think I would maybe have like a photo or two published, but like nothing.
It's like levitation project days.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about that, but.
How good does it feel though, like after a season and you're like, you have so many photos you're so psyched on, and then you finally see one printed?
Yeah, it feels awesome. Like, I still remember, you know, one of my first anything that was printed was in like the Wave Rave catalog.
Sick.
And it was like a little one page or whatever, and I remember being so stoked. And then I think the first like photo that I had published was in Snowboarder. It was a Keegan Valleca.
Sick.
And it was at like Hot Dogs and Handrails or something, because I used to always shoot that event.
Yeah.
Always. I was there for the first one, and I shot that thing for like 6 years in a row. It was so
awesome.
funny. So funny. And it was like a photo.
Rail guy over here.
Oh, dude, I have some old school stuff of Keegan, like in like Bone Zone, first year of Bone Zone.
Damn.
Had photos of all those guys, like that down, flat down row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was probably there. I was probably just
You were
so
probably
little.
a little drum, yeah. But like I still remember like seeing Keegan, like, oh, that's cool, but then I remember that it was only like a small little like quarter page, and I was like, that's cool, but it's kind of small. And so then you're like, oh, okay, like.
And the check for $25 shows up, and you're like, I made it.
I probably didn't even get paid. I had no idea, like, what do I do? Do I invoice? I had no idea what an invoice was, I bet, you know?
Yeah.
And so yeah, and so I was working, like, you know, I was thinking about it last night, and I was like, oh, what questions you guys are going to ask me? I was like kind of running through my timeline in my head, and I was like, it's only been, so that first trip to Nepal, that's in this book, with Jeremy, was in 2013, and so I was still working at the hospital full time. Like Forrest, you know, I got to give a huge, you know, credit to Forrest, because we had met through Chris Coulter. Like I still remember building my first split board in his garage, you know, like cutting my board in half, and we were just like, you know, super stoned in his garage, just like, here, you know, you build, like, you know Coulter, and he's like, all right, man, you're gonna build this split board, and it was like an old Rossignol board, and, you know, that I got from like when your brother, like, cause I had shot your brother and stuff, and when Pouch was running Rossignol, and like Neil Provo and all those guys at like Powder Mountain, and so they'd give me a board, and I was like, I think I want to try splitboarding. Seems cool. And then, you know, we were in his garage, just like, all right, here's the saw, like, you know, cut the board, and then since that, I kind of met Forrest, and then, you know, would see him more and more, and kind of like hang out and go tours, and, you know, like Pouch took me on my first tour up.
That's so right.
I think it was like whatever the Old Man trees up.
Bear Trap.
Nice. Yeah, where it has all the switchbacks.
Old Man Zone.
Yeah, and and so that kind of like, you know, opened the door to all that, and then, you know, and Forrest had invited me, you know, I think 2012 to go down to Chile for my first time, and I don't remember how I got down there. Because it was a Jones boards test, and I'd kind of been shooting a little bit with Forrest, and he would kind of like, you know, would take me around. I think he saw like, oh, this guy can kind of shoot photos. He's down. Like, I'm gonna just drag him around to all these places to shoot me. You know, like, you know, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. And, you know, it's like, because I'm just, you know, when you have an eager photographer and you don't get like older and salty like you and me, you're like, I don't want to go there. You know? But like you're some like, I'll go anywhere. I don't know. You know.
Yeah.
I feel like those are some of my favorite photos of like Forest around Superior.
Yeah.
They're not even like the snowboarding ones, but they put out that like awesome vibe of like hiking and being out in like the Wasatch. I don't know.
Yeah, man, I've had such good times, and that's when there's no one splitboarding around there. Nobody. Like a few kind of like, you know, Neil Provo and those guys, but it was such a small little crew of guys that it, like, compared to what it is now, and people going back and doing these same lines and being like, oh yeah, and you're like, dude, I did that so long ago, you know. But which is great for them. It's cool, you know. But it's like always interesting to see like, you know, the angles that people choose, or, you know, whatever.
Even for me, I feel like I'd only been split-boarding. I've been split-boarding for like 4 or 5 years, and I've watched the like increase of people.
Dude, it's crazy. Like, and I think that largely has to do with, you know, social media and people just wanting to know where everywhere is.
Yeah,
and, like,
I mean, it's a really fun thing. So.
Yeah, it's totally.
Going back to Nepal, I mean, for me, like, as from an outside perspective, like, I'll never forget that article when it printed, because it was, from my perspective, it seemed like just such a crazy adventure. Not like snowboarding trip. It was like an adventure. Yeah. And that was like your first big trip you ever went on?
That was that was the first trip that I got paid to go do. And so, yeah, it was...
So you went from Chile, and then...
so I went down to Chile. I think I might have had to pay my own plane ticket down there, and you know, Chile's expensive. It can be like $2,000 to get down there.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's a lot of money. Just like I'd never... And now knowing like, oh, like people like spend so much money, you know, for me that was a big deal. Like, hey, like if you pay your own, I remember, it was for a Jones test, and I remember Jeremy saying like, all right, I hadn't met him yet, and so it was coming through Forrest, and Forrest was like, okay, so the deal is if you pay your own way down there, everything else down there will be covered. So I was like, okay, and I remember like dropping it. I was like, oh shit, you know, that's a lot of money for a plane ticket. Went down there, you know, meet Jeremy Jones for the first time. Big Mountain Jeremy Jones, and was like, you know, he was the nicest guy ever. Just so like, hey, what's up, man? Like, just so welcoming. You know, didn't know anything about me, and it was Alex Yoder, Forrest, and Jeremy.
Sick. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a sick crew.
Yeah.
You're probably like, what the fuck?
Yeah, totally, man. And so that was in probably like August. Yeah, it was in August. And so we were doing the Jones board test. So they bring a lot of boards down there, test them out. You know, because Jeremy, it's pretty cool to work with Jeremy over the years and see Jones and how dedicated he is to like stand behind every single board and how they're made and putting them through the ringer in all type of conditions. And I really like that really stood out to me. Like, you know, down there, like, wow, this is the guy. These are his boards, and he's like, this board sucks. Now, like, change this, do this, and this, and this. And so we just ran around the mountains in La Parva for, like, you know, a couple days. And I was just like, oh, my God, this is Jeremy Jones, like running, trying to keep up. You know, and I mean, I was keeping up, but, like, to get the shot, like, I remember he was tripping out because they'd be hiking, and I'd be, like, you know, have all my shit just, like, with my camera out, just, like, running in front of them to try to get photos and be like, he's like, who the fuck is this guy? And so I tried to like really, yeah.
I can't keep up with Griff. I'm not gonna lie. He hikes too fast.
Yeah, totally, man. Forrest the same way. It feels like the pack gets heavier and heavier. But so just, you know, would like just really try to make a lasting impression. And so I remember him talking about the trip down there, like, oh yeah, like we're thinking. He was all kind of hush hush about it, like talking to Forrest. I overheard it. And like he was like, yeah, we're gonna go to Nepal. It's kind of teed up to happen pretty soon. And I was just like thinking in my head, like, oh my God, like Nepal, like that sounds so crazy.
Yeah.
I remember taking a piss and like hearing them talking about it. I'm like, that sounds unreal. Like,
you like nervous already?
No, like yeah, I just was like, you know, because like my dad, it's kind of a funny story. My dad, not a climber or anything like that, but he just for some reason was obsessed with Mount Everest. And so I grew up, my dad has probably every single book written on Mount Everest. And he just loves the stories of like, you know, in 99 or whenever that was when that huge tragedy happened there and like, you know, like 10 people died or whatever.
The Thin Air tragedy.
Exactly, yeah, that same one. And I mean, I read that book, I did like a book report on that in like middle school.
I love that book.
So like the IMAX movie of Everest and all this stuff. And so I was very familiar with Nepal. Like really familiar with it, but I never said, you know, I was like, oh, that was crazy, and you know, so it's like I kind of grew up with Nepal in my life in a weird way, you know, through books and movies, and my dad just being obsessed with it.
And you're about to go see it.
Well, no, I didn't know I was going.
Yeah, okay.
Down in Chile, I just was hearing him talk about it, and they weren't even talking about it in front of me. I just was like editing photos or whatever, and like earshot, and so like anyways, the trip ended. Jeremy had to leave, and then me and Forrest and Yoder stayed an extra week and got like amazing conditions and like, you know, fueled my love for Chile because I'm half Chilean. My mom's from Chile. She was born down there and lived there till she was like 15, and then
Rad.
Yeah, so it was like this cool, like I felt a connection and anyways, long story short, you know, I sent some photos to Jeremy, and you know, we kind of were in touch, and he was like, thanks and whatever, and so then I'm boom back to Salt Lake, back to the hospital, like, you know, in my scrubs, waking up at 5 a.m., sticking needles in people's arms, you know, like a whole nother life.
Yeah.
This is double life, and that was like my first kind of big trip down there, and then so I remember getting this call from this number, and I was working and I didn't answer it, and then I got this message, and it was Jeremy, and he was like, "Hey Andrew, it's Jeremy Jones here. Like, there's a 10% chance that we might need someone for Nepal. Like, I was just calling to see if this was anything you'd be interested in or whatever, blah, blah, blah. All right, later." You know, like 20 seconds. I'm like at work, like on my lunch break, in my scrubs, you know, like, what the fuck? You know, like tripping out.
Oh,
know?
yeah.
And
your heart probably was just like...
Yeah, instantly. Oh, yeah, instantly, like, my first reaction was, like, scared shitless, scared to death, you know, and...
Yeah.
And then so I called him back, and it was like a 2-second conversation. I'm like, "Yeah, tell me more. Like, what's the deal? Like, I don't know anything about that, or what. I don't even know anything about anything. You know, like, I'm down though. Like, yeah, I'm interested. You know, like for sure." And then calls me back a week, and then I kind of talked to my my lady about it, and you know, my dad about it, and I was like, "Dad, like, you know." Jeremy called me again. He was like, "Okay, there's a 50% chance. Are you still down?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm down." And then
nothing gives you percentage.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 50% chance. Anyways, long story short, he called me like 3 different times, all with like a better percentage. And then, you know, I talked to my dad and I was like, "Should I do it? I don't know. I'm scared. Like, I'm really scared. Like, I'm deathly scared."
Sorry to interrupt, are you pretty, like, backcountry savvy at this point?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, a little bit. Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I would say so. I mean, I had done all the range here in, you know, Superior, and, you know, had some big tours and, like, felt comfortable, like, took some avalanche classes. And yeah, for sure. Okay. By that time, I mean, that was 2013, and so I had at least 2 to 3 years under my belt of, like, you know, really kind of like looking at stuff and attending, like, you know, Utah Avalanche, and they used to do this like athlete summit workshop, and so yeah, for sure, like familiar, and a little bit like you know, a little bit more confident for sure. So okay. But like when it came to mountaineering, but at this time I was climbing a ton.
Yeah,
I was a huge climber, multi-pitch stuff, trad stuff, everything. Like that was like my heyday of climbing for me.
You were crushing it the other day, dude. Lock yourself down.
Been a while, yeah. But and so I was really comfortable with that aspect of being on a rope and, you know, having gear and stuff, but I'd never combined the two.
Yeah.
You know, and then when you think of Nepal, you think of like gnarly
alpinist.
Yeah, and so like it scared me, and so I called my dad. I was like, "Should I do it?" I was like, "I feel like this is like some weird kind of like not destiny, but like me growing up and meeting these Everest climbers." I still remember I was like super small, and I have a photo with like Ed Viesters and David Brashears, who are, if you look at them, David Brashears is like the revolutionary cameraman who brought the IMAX camera to Everest, and amazing photographer, and Ed Viesters is like one of the first guys to summit Everest without oxygen. And so I have a photo. I'm like tiny with these guys.
Crazy.
Wow.
And so I was like, this has to, like, there's something weird or whatever, but this has to be, like, you know. And my dad's like, do it. He's like, you'll never get this opportunity in your life ever again.
Yeah.
Like, do it. 100%. Like, do it. Do not even question it. And so that kind of, like, solidified it, you know. And Jeremy called me again. He's like, all right, this is the deal. Do you want to come or not, you know? And I'm like, yeah, I'm 100%. I like, no matter, I told him, I was like, doesn't matter what the cost is, whatever. I'm going. I'm in 100%. And when he heard that from me, he's like, all right, let's do it. And so it was a matter of, you know, Transworld at the time was a partner in his movie, and he had been talking to some guys over at Transworld who were potentially going, you know, wanted to go, but it was kind of an interesting thing. And so they, you know, they helped me out a little bit. And then I got helped out by a few of Jeremy's sponsors to get out there. This is an expensive trip, too.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
All said and done, it was $11,000.
Wow.
$11,000 trip. And that's, you know, and that's small compared to, like, Everest.
Definitely.
You know, I think it almost costs $100,000 to climb Everest.
Yeah, to get the...
And obviously it's way different, but, like, what the most of the costs are military fees, permits. You have to, it's so rigged there, and that you pay the government so much money. And, you know, like, probably, you know, 60% of that money goes to the government.
Huh.
And, like,
taxes
and weird and stuff. And so, like, you know, all said and done, you're paying your outfitter maybe $5,000, you know. But that's, like, we were there for almost 40 days.
Yeah.
And so anyways.
40 days. That's crazy.
Yeah. So long story short, Jeremy was like, all right, get your shit together. We leave in, a week and a half, 2 weeks. And I was like,
whoa.
Boom. Yeah. And then I was like linked into the emails, and it was like these crazy like expedition lists of gear and like this and shots and like all these things. And like, I'm like, whoa, this is my first major, trip to anywhere, other side of the world.
Yeah,
longest plane ever.
Crazy first trip.
Yeah, so yeah, man. I could talk about that for hours, but it was, long story short, it was, an amazing, like you said, it's just such. I don't even, because people are like, you talk shit and be like, oh, that's not snowboarding, and he only, like. And like, okay,
I was so inspired.
Say what you want, whatever. That was a life trip for me. Like, like snowboarding was just a bonus. Mm-hmm. Just all the things that I saw and everything that I got to experience and the culture there, and like, for me as a person, I always like often think back about that trip and like, man, like that has like inspired me to do so much. I feel like it was a pivotal point in my life and my photography career, and everything since that, has like just been kind of like onward and upward and, gotten better. And that was like my, like, I feel like initiation into where, I didn't know anything, dude, coming out of that. Like, I still remember like, oh, this has cover potential, and this is like, magazines always say that. Like, oh, this has cover potential, and, this, we're going to do and this was all new stuff to me, and, and so I was like, hey, whatever, like, I'm going on the trip with Jeremy Jones, everything else is a bonus, and
yeah.
The trip was paid for, and I, making a little bit of money after it, and
that
so,
cover is incredible too.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, that was like, that was my, obviously my first cover anywhere, and and a funny quick story about that is there was two different angles that we were going to choose on this glacier, and so. Jeremy and Luca and those guys, they started at like 3 a.m. Man, there's so many stories in this trip, but
you should do a podcast just of the Nepal trip, like straight up.
You could have gotten Jeremy in here for sure. Yeah. He would have been so down.
We got next time he's
here, you should get him to come in with Forrest or something. But and he'll tell you all about it. But anyways, there was two angles, and I almost picked, or the other two camera guys I was with really wanted this other angle. And I was like, this angle is not the angle. And we ended up, like, last minute going back down the glacier
to your angle,
to this better angle. Because luckily, I had, like, uploaded photos. Because, we if you watched higher, it was, like, a couple-day process.
Yeah.
We got skunked and, whatever. And so I had shot a few photos of when it was clear, and then the clouds came. And then I really don't do this ever, but I uploaded photos and looked at them. And I was like, that's not the angle. The other angle is the angle. And so luckily we moved to that other angle, and it ended up working out. I almost didn't rent a huge lens too. And it wasn't even a huge lens. I rented the cheapest, lightest Canon 400mm and shot it on my 5D. And I had another camera with me that was shooting my 70-200, really pulled back, which has some cool shots. Like, I think if you were to blow that photo up like massive, because it was just the whole peak, because we were so far away. And I hadn't really shot, I had been to Alaska once, or I've been to Alaska twice, but I, had shot of nothing that far away. It was pretty far away, and we were at 19,000 feet, and it was a struggle. Yeah. Oh man, I'll never eat a Cliff Bar again. That's right. But yeah, it was, man. Yeah, like I said, I could tell a million stories, but that was, it was an amazing trip, and I feel like that really established. People are like, first of all, who the hell is this guy? Who is this kid? And then everyone after that trip would always come up to me and like, oh, you're that gnarly dude, like, blah, blah, blah. And like, that's all you do, And I'm like, you probably said that to me, And like, no, I'm like, no, man, I want to go ride powder. I want to go build jumps and, and so, yeah, it was an amazing experience. And I actually got hit up this year to go back. And I'm like, no. There's done. Well, I'd go back to go trek around and just like to take my lady there, or take my, my whole family, my daughter. And I encourage that to anyone to just, because it's really cheap. And it's just to go trek around, you know, to like hike around, man, it's like a life-changing experience.
Totally, I want to go there.
Yeah, like I would highly recommend that to everyone. But like for me to go back in and to top that trip, there's no way that's ever gonna happen. And I don't ever, you know, you see these people that kind of chase these that one trip that they had, and they want that trip again. It will never happen.
Be the same.
It will never be the same.
Yeah,
I've done that. You know, I've gone to the same place twice or whatever, and it's like, oh, last year was so much better, and you know, it's never gonna be the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was that was a fun trip for sure.
When you came back from that trip, did you kind of have like a sense that maybe you're gonna make it as a photographer? Because you've been like trying for all these years. You have like a side gig at the hospital. You go to Nepal. You're there for how long? 3 weeks or a month or something?
40 days.
40 days.
Yeah, I came
like
back.
5 weeks.
I was there.
Crazy.
I was there. We kind of funny. We flew out on September 11, and then I got back. I was flying, you know, because it takes like 40 hours to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I remember flying back on my birthday, which is October 16th. So around like 35, you know, and by the time I got home, it was like October 20 something. I don't know. I don't remember, but it was almost 40 days.
Yeah.
But no, dude, like it was such a crazy roller coasters ups and downs, because it almost didn't happen, you know. And I was like, you know, freaking out, like, man, you know, I took all this time off work, spent all this much money, all these people, there's so much pressure, are relying on this, and like, you know, like up there at elevation, your emotions are just all over the place, because, you know, our base camp was at like 16,000 feet, and then our high camp was at 18,500, and then our barbing angle was like just shy of 20. And so we were going up and down and up and down and up and down, and so you're just like, everyone was like, went through some type of little like meltdown. You know? Yeah. Everybody did, whether it was like over food or missing something or whatever. But like, yeah, I remember thinking like, I'm gonna come back with nothing, and like this, I'm like, oh, like just stressing.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those trips where it was like last day, last chance, like it all came through and it all happened. And I looked at that photo, and I remember thinking in my head, like, man, if there's ever a cover photo, this is probably the shot. But like, you know, me banking on it happened. I didn't know. I was just like, I don't know, whatever. At the end of the day, the magazine and article and any of that stuff is whatever. Doesn't mean anything to me. You know, just that trip. And,
you have that photo for your memory.
Yeah, you know, and just those memories, man. Just with the connections with the people, and you know, I'll remember that trip for the rest of my life. And that, you know, that whole group of images, you know, everyone can relate to. You don't have to just be a snowboarder, which is really cool, you know, because sometimes you're like, you talk to some, you know, your parents or your parents' friends, and they're like, so what do you do? And you're like, well, I'm a snowboard photographer. And you're like, wow, what do you got? You know, like,
they're like, wait, what?
Like, oh,
wait,
so
you do that for fun?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, no, actually,
they're like, no, I get paid. And they're like, oh, really? Oh, you can make money? And I'm like, I probably make more money than you. So shut up. You know? I had a teacher in my high school say that to me. He's like, oh, so you're like, we went to this wedding, and like a teacher in my high school, this was like not that long ago. And it was me and Jameson, my buddy that I grew up with, and he's like, "Oh, you guys live in Utah. Oh, you're still a bunch of snowboard bums, huh?" And we just looked at each other, we're like, "Yep, we are." You know, like just like, you know, talk to you. Yeah, it was pretty funny, and so yeah. Anyways, amazing trip.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, what was your favorite trip you've been on, but that's probably the one. Huh?
Yeah, you know, every trip is so different. You know, it's like you can go on a rail trip to Russia. It's got like crazy vibes, and you like it for a certain way, or you could go to a trip in Japan and ride the best power of your life, and you're like, it's so hard to pick. But like, as far as life trips goes, I'm gonna have to pick Nepal, because that was like my first one, and then I love going to Chile just because I feel that connection there. And then our Iceland trip was that 2 years ago. That was like another life trip.
Yeah, that
where it was
really
like
cool.
Just like a, you know, I couldn't even if I didn't shoot any photos, it was just the group we had. You know, after the season, everyone was coming off, and it was just felt like vacation. It didn't feel like it was a, you know, a work trip.
Yeah.
And just like a legend crew, and that was amazing. I like, oh man, that's another really fun one. Yeah.
I feel like Forrest is good at doing that when you go on trips. Good times.
Yeah, Forrest is the man.
And then your favorite photo you've ever taken is a heavy one, but you go top three.
Top three.
You're gonna hurt some feelings with this question.
Definitely something of Manuel in Alaska.
Sick.
I love Manuel. He's like
the fastest snowboarder alive.
He, in my opinion, is one of the best snowboarders out there.
Yeah.
And he is so. It's hard for him to get support. I just find it insane.
Yeah, right.
And he's like
the Chile guy.
He's the man, you know. And I think maybe it's our our like Brodercito connection with Chile, and even though I don't speak very good Spanish, but like, seeing him in Alaska and being won't go to Alaska with any other person but him, for sure. And so there's random spine photos of that I've shot over the years with him I just love spines. I'm obsessed with spines. Yeah. And so one of the shots with him probably be like this sunset of Alex Yoder in Chile.
Is that the slash with the snow?
No, there's that's a sick one, but this one's just like the most amazing sunset I've ever seen. And Forrest, it was that first trip.
Yeah. With
him and Forrest, and Forrest dropped first, and like we were freaking out because the sunset was so amazing.
Yeah.
I'll show you guys after this, but like most colors ever, and so I'm just like, just someone fucking drop, like go, like screaming, like
do anything.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And so Forrest dropped, and like we were pretty high on a ridge, and it wasn't the steepest, but it was like kind of this flat thing that went down, and so he was like pumping, and then he just disappears, and we're like, oh, he dropped too early, and I was just like, my mind was exploding, you know? And so I was like, Yoder, go, and he just goes, drops out of sight again, and then luckily just comes out for a second and does this huge spray, and I'm shot super wide, and I was just like, yes, like, oh my god, like, and I thought I blew it, and I thought I didn't get it, and then I remember, and it was at this run called Tres Marias. It's the longest run in South America. It's 8 miles.
Wow.
And then it was dark, and so we didn't have headlamps. And so we were riding out in the dark, and I was like, I'll be honest, I was pissed.
Yes.
I was just like, that was the best sunset I've ever seen in my life. I just blew it, like I can't.
How am I gonna tell these guys how I blew the photo?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it wasn't necessarily me. It was like they just, it was all of us. Yeah. It was like it's hard. You guys, as a rider, you're like, okay, hit that spot right there. I see it perfect, and you don't do it, and we're like, what the hell, man? Like,
no, 5 feet further this way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not that snowball. Yeah. This snowball.
Yeah, and you're like, and then you go up to ride the same line, and you're like, ooh, that was kind of hard to see. So there's that photo, and then oh man,
I love my favorite one's the Forest Wall of Voodoo at Bachelor.
Yeah, that
photo is like incredible.
Yeah, that was another random day with. David Benedict was there.
Wow.
Pierre Wickberg and Jake Price.
Is that the Derby?
And Rip Zinger. Yeah, me and Forrest were just hiking up, and then Jake Price, we get to the top, and Jake Price comes out of nowhere. It was like, there's all these people, and he's like, hey guys, come with me. And we're like, okay. And we go with him, and then like David Benedict and Pierre come out of nowhere. I'm like, holy shit, that's David Benedict. And then we just roll up to the wall of Voodoo, and then Jake went first. And he did a hand plant or something, but he didn't have enough speed. He kind of tested the speed out and wasn't quite fast enough.
Huge. You don't realize how big it is.
And then everyone was sitting there like looking at each other, and I just was like, super fast, like was riding with my camera, which I do a lot with out, and they're like, Forrest, go drop, check the speed, and then Forrest just goes and just nothing crazy, just does a huge nice, like he's carving a bowl, and all those clouds are there, and it was super early season, and those guys are like, it never looks like this, and just like classic, like, lucky, awesome. Man, and then I shot it, and I'm like, oh, that was probably a pretty cool photo, and then I was like doing a thing for Patagonia, and then like posted on Instagram right away, like, not even thinking, like just, oh yeah, it's a cool photo, whatever, and then magazine season came, and it was almost, I'll just say this, it was almost a cover, but it didn't happen.
Because of Instagram, you think maybe?
No, there's some other stuff, but so I just didn't. That's when I was still kind of like, thinking like, okay, like this could be a really cool photo. Like maybe you should save it.
Yeah.
Like, kind of getting on that mentality.
But I remember you were telling me about that surf cover you had when we were in Japan with Craig Anderson. You said that was the first photo that was on Instagram, and then they decided to use it as a cover, and you were like, this is huge.
Oh man, I'm a huge proponent of that. It was for this Surfer's Journal. It was this amazing photo. You guys probably saw it scrolling through a couple of years ago, and it was this like huge swell in Indonesia, blah blah whatever. Craig Anderson is on this tiny little board riding this like ginormous board, beautiful colors, and it was everywhere on Instagram, like videos, photos, or whatever. And the Surfers Journal wrote a whole article about it. They made it their cover like a couple months later. They wrote a whole article about it, like, there's some photos just because they've been online that is such a good photo that doesn't matter. This thing deserves to be printed. That's sick. And I read that and I was like, it resonated with me so much because, I'll be frank these days, I'm becoming not necessarily jaded, but just like a little bit. It's getting harder and harder to work, with people and companies where everyone is just so caught up with Instagram. Yeah, for sure. And like, sorry, we can't run this. This is already seen on Instagram, and we're trying to, have an exclusivity on this and that and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, well, it's a really good photo, man, and it was posted 7 months ago.
No one's going to remember.
Yeah, no one's going to remember. It's going to have a whole nother life, tangible life, where you're going to open it and you're, like, look at this photo, like, look at this thing. I posted this on Jones a couple days ago, and like looking at it now to looking on there, it's like it's a whole nother photo. Yeah. And like this, even this even bigger, and so
takes on a whole new life.
Yeah, and it's just like, so who cares?
Yeah.
Like who cares? Because the only people that care are you guys and your small crew.
Yeah.
Well, and
you know how it is, and
it's also hard
because frustrating, man.
It's like,
I can understand. I feel like every photographer shares this frustration, and this is just me being honest, and maybe a little too honest. But
no, honesty is the best.
But like, there's a whole nother side to it for sure. With like sponsorship dollars and exclusivity, and I understand that. And it's one thing if you're working for them, and they're giving you a paycheck. But if you're a freelance photographer and they're like wanting all this stuff, and they want to give you like $200, you're like, dude, like, don't get mad at me.
Yeah.
Like there's just this weird line, and it's such an interesting time now with all that stuff where it's like I am getting to the point where I'm only gonna go on shoots where I'm getting paid, and you're making the most money by working for a company, as you know.
Yeah.
It's like, I think the freelance photographer, as far as like making ends meet or even relying on money from editorial, is like a unicorn.
It doesn't
or something,
exist.
And like, I'm lucky because everyone's like, man, who is there even anyone that just solely like their whole, like, they make their living just off snowboarding, and like no one does it, and it's like, and I do.
Yeah.
I don't shoot anything else. I take my summers off. Now have a daughter, and I've done that for the past 3 years. But I'm not like, I feel like my perspective, and like just me talking about it right now, this is something I don't do.
This is awesome.
I don't talk to anyone. I like, maybe the only guy that I ever talk to about stuff is Oli. And for me, he is the man.
Yeah.
And like, his, not only his photography, but just how he is and his perspective, and he's as core as it gets. You
can tell he like gives a shit.
Oh yeah.
He gives a shit, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Like, he's gonna do his thing because he's gonna do it.
Yeah.
And like,
he doesn't care what other people
think. So like, we, like, he's probably like one of the only guys that I've gone back and like, hey, what do you think? Like, this is kind of crazy, or just like venting a little bit. But like, I don't know a lot of photographers besides this guy right here. I maybe only know you and Oli. That's it. I don't talk to any. I really don't. And it's not because I'm like a dick or anything. I kind of do my thing. I prefer to be kind of just do my thing, and like, if people like it, if they like it, if they don't, I'm just gonna keep doing my thing. And I think that's what I've just been doing over my career. And it's like, you put time into anything, and you'll eventually get somewhere.
If you love it.
If you're good at it,
care about it
if
enough.
you care about it enough, and you have good work ethic, and at the end of the day, like, I'm a snowboarder. I love to snowboard, and like, that's my thing. And I just happen to carry around a camera, and that's why I think I've gravitated to do more like foot powered stuff and things where I can actually be in there. I can like, hey guys, I'm gonna do a little snow check for you. I'm gonna shoot at the bottom, you know. And
well, that was me and Nils when we first went out with you. We were like, dude, it's so sick because you were on the lift when we first. Because I shot with you on like a hip, I think, when we first met.
Oh yeah.
And then we went to like Solitude, and you're like, yo, this is what I do. We ride for a little, and then we shoot, and you're like, hell yeah, dude.
That's
like,
the best.
You
have to have a fun ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're
that's
like
then my
you're
thing.
riding.
I hate it more than anything when you go like on these trips. I mean, like I haven't gotten to go on as many as like insane backcountry trips as you, but like sometimes you'll go shooting with people and they're like, "Okay, let's just start filming." You're like, "Dude, no. We're gonna take a fucking fun run. We're gonna get everybody feeling good. Then we'll start shooting, and it's gonna be way more productive that way than just like get straight to it." You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know it's after you've had a lot of experiences and you've shot so many times. You know, there's the days where you're like, okay, like it is on first run, we're shooting. But then there's days where you're like, let's just cruise, man. Like, let's all have a good time. Like, at the end of the day, like, you know, let's get a good photo. Let's not get a good photo. Like, you know, and for me, it's just to make it fun and to get my turns in. Because, that's what we all love to do. And it's just funny, like, you know, I always get this, like, working with filmers, you know, where you get these guys you've never worked with before, and they're just like, you know, whatever, they live in L.A. or they live on the beach, and they come up and they're just like, you know, like frothing. And you're like, all right, let's slow it down, dude. You got to get that. Like, for me, it's like you find that, like, you read about the flow state and, you know, all that stuff like that. You can kind of apply that same thing to, like, you know, like just vibes in general and having a good time. And so it's like, you're like, I have like a rule, not a rule, but like sometimes I just shoot every other run. You know, or what I'll do is like, all right, let's just cruise, and I'll like wrap my camera strap around my.
It's like Snowboard just behind us.
And Snowboard, like all those shots, dude. And probably 80% of them aren't going to turn out, but you know, like maybe
everyone's having a good time though, and then like that one comes out, and I see those photos, and I'm like, damn, that day was so fun. Like,
just try to get that feel, and like this past year, it's cool when you connect with people who get it. And like this past year, you know, working on the depth perception with Brian, everyone would be kind of like all over here, and he'd be like, "Yeah, Andrew, come here." He's like, "Let's just take a run here. Like, just fucking shoot me. You know, like have your camera here and let's do it." I'm like, "Okay." And so I was like, "All right, you know what? I'm gonna fuck around. I'm gonna do like slow shutter speed. Like I love that. Like when it's kind of a shitty day and you're like, it's kind of whatever. You can get amazing photos, and I find so much inspiration from surf photography, and they do so much." Like speed blur. I love speed blur, but it's really hard with snowboarding. It's really hard because you think of those guys are on the beach, they're on a tripod, solid, just like, and surfers are going fast. Yeah. So they can do those nice pans and really lag the shutter, but with snowboarding,
I've seen you try it. It's like
it can be
like
hard.
1 in a million.
You can get like probably like one shot out of 100 works or two shots, or you can get so close, and so. Like, you know, like with Brian, man, we would just take so many laps, and I'd have my fisheye on there, and it was a seriously deep days. And so I would just be having so much fun, you know, and be like, we'd almost be hitting each other, and then I'd be like, okay, I get a little front of him, and then like take a couple photos, and then we'd be cruising, and I'd just be like riding with my fisheye like this, just like big shots. So I try to do that all the time when nothing's really going on, because, you know, you get to a point where you're like, you know, these people want to set up these crazy. It's just so funny.
You got to rebel.
It's so set up. It's like they want.
Yeah, and you're like,
crazy.
You can't do this, and
no.
And I think it. You know, I was thinking about it the other day, and you know, I haven't been doing my thing for that long, and you know, but I feel like you know, I've had enough stuff under my belt to kind of be able to know when it's on and know when it's not, and to not try to force it when it's not. You know? And you get these people that just don't get that, and. You know, just like as, you know...
Throws off the energy.
Yeah, and just like right now is like kind of like when, you know, companies are reaching out, or like you're kind of like everyone wants to know what you're going to do or what's going on. And, you know, and speaking on that is getting to like a point where working with clients and companies that you really like, and then not even messing around with anybody else. And that's where I've gotten, where I've gotten to the point where I want to pick quality over quantity. Yeah. Like, for example... You know, like a month ago, I got a call from this company, a bigger company, and they're like, "Oh, hey, like, we love your work. We want to work with you. Send us over a quote. Like, this is our plans of what we want to do, where we want to go. These are the times. These are, you know, the scenarios." And And it was this whole kind of group of people, and just like the phone conversation. You know, first of all, I was like, it was a bigger company, but I was like, I don't really like that company. No, I'll be honest with you. Yeah. It's like, I'm not a huge fan of that company. Like, they're cool, but not the. I mean, I just I don't. I've never even thought about buying their product. I don't pay attention to what they do. And like, I don't want to come off like a dick.
No, this is awesome.
Like, I just want to, be honest with you, and so I was like, and then I was thinking on my other side of my head, I'm like, well, okay, like I could, they probably pay pretty well, I could just like kind of like, deal with kind of going into it knowing I'm gonna have to deal with all this stuff and just kind of like how all right, we're gonna be on there with you and directing, and it's just like, and so. And knowing that, like, oh, okay, this is going to be kind of a little bit of a, not my style.
Yeah.
And then so I work up this code and all this thing, and then and I hear back, and they're like, oh, actually, just so we have other people in the mix, and blah blah blah. And then it ended up coming like, oh, we're not going to use you. And I was like, I kind of had like a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, actually, because I really didn't want to do that anyways. And so it's like getting to the point where you're working with companies that you align with that are like, hey, if they're not paying me, I'm going to go out and buy their product no matter what. I believe in what their company stands for, what they stand for, and like these days, just like, being able to go shoot with people that you really align with. And for me, that's a huge deal. And, and so I've tried to like, this season, it'll be interesting to see how things play out, because everyone wants to like, oh, what are you doing, whatever, and then, I always know it's like, man, I haven't gotten any emails, or like it's been kind of quiet, and then and then you got to realize it's all like once January comes, it's not going to be quiet, so enjoy these like slower times and not be freaking out and be like, oh, what am I going to do? Because it's the snowboard industry is like, as a freelancer, because essentially that's what I still am, for the most part, for the exception of a few retainers here and there, but so it's like, it's a little like scary. It can be it's still scary.
Definitely.
Where you're like, some money, like 1 month I can just crush it.
Yep.
And then I might not get a gig for a month or two.
Yeah.
But then I get another gig and just crush it. But it's this like instability that I think for certain people just can't hang with it. And so, it's
keeps you open to like awesome things that can happen though.
Yeah, and I think, especially having a kid, and looking to guys who have kids, and Gooch was a big one. He was like, hey man, you just like, you need to pick and choose your battles.
Yeah. Because
you can't just be like, hey, I'm gonna go on this shoot to this trip, and it's 2 weeks long, and we're gonna crush it. We're gonna come home, and we're gonna be done. Like my lady's always like, when she gets a call towards the end of the trip, she's always like, you're gonna stay longer, aren't you? And it's like, it's like you have to. I'm already here. You haven't got it.
Never leave.
It could be that one day at the end of the trip that you extended. That's happened so many times where you make all your sales and you get all your best images on a 2-week trip from like one day.
Yeah.
And so
I remember this last one where I went to Bulgaria, and we had everybody's bags got lost for like the first 3 days, and then they decided to extend the trip, which if we didn't extend the trip, and I mean, dude, the plane ticket to change was expensive. It was like $1,000 or something.
Oh, wow.
But those last like 3 days that we extended the trip, we got like half the footage for the trip in those 3 days. So you can't, people don't understand that, but like you can't bail. If you need to stay longer, like you need to stay longer. Yeah. There's some trips where you're like, dude, I want to get the fuck out of here, and like I'm leaving.
Yeah.
But there's other times where you just get that.
And that's what I've learned a lot from Jeremy is like, he goes into these trips with one-way tickets.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's gonna be the day, and I'm gonna stay here until there's that day.
Yeah.
And so if you have, say you're like a younger homie and you got some girlfriend like, rah, 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 and that dude bails, and then you crush it, and you're like, and then so I don't know, but long and short of it, it's just, I've been so stoked to like work with so many cool people over the years and have so many different experiences and really kind of now feel like in a comfortable place and and have been thrown out of my comfort zone. Like we had this conversation the other night.
Yeah. Where
you're like, stuff that goes your way or like is thrown at you and it knocks you off your horse or whatever, and you're like, I was kind of cruising, feeling good, everything's going good, and almost too good, and then you need kind of like as an artist, you kind of need these like humbling experiences, whether, you know, losing a job or like, you know, losing a competition or anything, or just something in your personal life or whatever, you know, to kind of like mix things up for you and be like, I needed that. I really needed that.
The blow of the knee.
The blow in the knee, yeah, exactly, yeah, you know, and but like, you know, as you know, progress as an artist and stuff, is like, you know, like stagnation is just not an option. You know?
Yeah, when you get too comfortable, I think for me, yeah, like sometimes I'll just get too comfortable.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like I'm a robot. Like I'm shooting photos, but I'm not really that
you're like,
invested in the moment.
Yeah.
And then, exactly. Like you lose your job, you get pay cuts, or and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, juiced again, you know?
Exactly. You're like, all right, I need to step it up, you know? And it's like when I, you know, had my daughter 2 years ago, I was like, that was a huge, like, you know, just a change in perspective of like, oh man, I don't want to go to Nepal anymore.
Yeah.
Like, how am I feeling about going to Alaska? Alaska's super scary. You're hanging out outside of a helicopter, like, okay, like, I'm questioning that again, whereas before I wouldn't even question that, you know? And, you know, and so it's like, that was a huge change. And then, like, you know, getting, you know, not being a senior anymore, which was like a huge promotion, and then like a, you know, and that was huge. And I was just like, whoa, like, does that mean I suck? Is something wrong with me, or something wrong with my photos, or whatever? And so, but I was thinking about it, like, that's probably one of the best things that's happened to me recently.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's like, it's really centered my focus to like pursue, you know, different things, or just to like, you know, really like, okay, like sharpen my blades and like, okay, I'm gonna crush it. I'm even more fired up because of this happened, and I need to like do something else, or I need to just, you know, have that fire, you know, restoked to just go out there and do my thing, not for anyone else, but for myself, you know, because when you start doing it for other people and for likes or for Instagram shit, or, you know, it's like, it's a joke, dude.
Yeah.
And it shows, and it will, you know,
it'll resonate with people.
It'll resonate with people more, I guess. I don't know. Who
And
knows these days?
That's why you're still around, though, too, because it's like when times get hard, it's easy to just bail and go get a regular job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you've actually like stuck through, you know, the hard times.
Yeah.
Things change, and then you continue to shoot photography. Yeah. Your photography gets better.
Yeah.
Like that's why people
I always think to tell
stay in it.
Your like 12-year-old self, like, if you had to tell your 12-year-old self, I was like the sixth snowboard photographer, and then I bailed, you'd be like, what?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, there's so much failure that comes with it. You have to accept, like, you learn so much from that failure, too. It's just an important part of, like, photography and life in general.
Yeah, like, you know, look at Shane Charlebois. He's always, you know, dropping down his Shane-isms, and which are the best, and he's always, like, talking about, like, hey, like, look at the people who've been around the longest. You know, it's like, it's cool, all these people come up and they're so hot these days with, you know, 2 or 3 years, and
it's the people that really love it.
Where are they?
Yeah.
You know, and you look at Shane, and look at, you know, he's the most humble guy ever, and you look at all these, you know, younger kids coming out the gates and like, hey, we did this and this and this and this, and you know, and then you look at Shane, he's like, I did that in the 90s.
Yeah, I did that like,
and like, but he's not going to tell you about it.
Totally.
And it's like, where are the interviews, the, you know, the more of the spotlight on like guys like him, and guys who have been there forever.
Totally,
you know, like,
that's kind of why I wanted to start the show.
Yeah, which is awesome, man, which is so cool, and I feel stoked that you'd even want to have me on here, because I feel like I'm a very small, you know, piece in that
incredible story and different perspective on snowboarding that's lost these days.
But yeah, I think, you know, you look at skateboarding, you look at surfing, and you look at how they respect their elders. Yeah. And like the story, like just with skating, just like epically layered, and, you know, telling these awesome stories of, you know, all these guys and like that are still around and that are still crushing it, and same with surfing and how they treat their older guys. And, you know, you look at snowboarding, and it's obviously a younger sport, you know, but, you know, I mean, there's still those few guys who are doing it, you know, like Jeremy and Gooch, and, you know, and other guys are well into their 40s, and which is not even that old, you know, but in snowboarding industry, you know, it's, I mean, I guess skating, that's pretty old too, but from a body standpoint, but those guys need to be highlighted more.
Totally.
like it's not, you know, because it's with the contesting. It's
Yeah.
always like this 13-year-old can do whatever, go in the Olympics. Like,
who cares?
that's a great story, and I'm stoked for them.
Yeah.
No disrespect for them, but like, let's talk to the core guys.
Snowboarding's
Let's
bigger.
talk to the guy that's been there forever,
Yeah.
the guy that's seen it all, the guy that's done it all. And like, I think you should get Shane in here. That would be.
He's on my list.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Charlotte Blanc.
Yeah, you know, or Eastone, or
Totally.
or
Like
Blotto,
Mathis
or
and-
Mathis would be awesome.
Yeah.
Or you start asking this guy some questions. You know, like you know, because you know, these days with just, you know, you got to think about that. You know, those guys.
They've seen so much.
They've seen so much, and then you have all this younger crew coming, and everything's just like, you know, like on your phone, and they're like, I don't need to do that. That's why they don't.
Yeah.
They're like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm not trying to speak for them, but I think if I was, you know, where they were and had seen what they've seen, maybe I'd be like, it's just funny.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
like
just different.
you know. But yeah, it's everyone has their own thing, and like I don't by any means want to be like talking shit on anyone, but you know, it's
good to have an opinion. I think opinions get lost.
Yeah, these days you got to be
Everything's
so
all sugar-coated.
politically correct, and sometimes if you can spark a discussion about anything because if it's an uncomfortable subject, but then, you know, you talk about it with everyone and you can kind of make progress and not just keep, you know.
Just the elephant in the room if you don't talk
Yeah,
about it.
totally. I mean, because it's like everyone feels it. The industry right now is kind of crazy, at least from a photo standpoint. There's all these voids that are like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. So let's leave it at that.
We'll bring it into so on the show we have a rad or whack section. So I just shoot you out three random things, and you can tell me rad or whack or skip.
Okay.
First one's carrageenan.
Carrageenan whack.
You're the one that introduced me to that. So you're on there. And almond milk, right? And some of the almond milk.
Yeah.
I check for it now.
Yeah, I mean.
What is? I was gonna say I don't even know. For probably most of people out there, if you gotta like maybe say like what is carrageenan?
Okay,
what
so
is it?
my wife, she's a nurse and she went to school for nutrition, so she's essentially a nutritionist.
Okay.
So she eats super well. She's really essentially it's just like a carcinogen additive that's just put in to like help bind things, or like I'm probably wrong. But anyways, it's bad, and it's in a lot of like nut milks and almond milks and like, you know, weird like coffee creamers and stuff.
Oh.
And it's not good.
Yeah.
So I've been going almond milk,
it's
and
bad
it's
for
like
your brain. No, a lot of the almond milk's okay. But
Everyone's changed it. Yeah, you'll see it on the labels. It's like carrageenan free, and so like we just had a kid.
Yeah.
And so I definitely have an interesting diet, and so that's funny.
And then the second one is drones.
Oh, rad.
Hell yeah.
I love drones.
Hell yeah. Then
Drone guy.
Autonomous cars. Kind of getting you, like to drive themselves.
Oh.
Rad or whack.
I don't know. Rad, but whack? I don't know.
They scare me.
I don't want one, yeah. Okay, I like driving.
And then...
Dude, I got rad or wax for. Do you have more?
I always go 3.
3.
Yeah.
Okay, then none of them have to do with photography.
That's why they're just random, dude.
Dude.
That's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
Film.
Rad.
Okay, let's see. What else do I have for you? Instagram.
I don't shoot enough. Oh, man, that's a hard one. Probably, I think it's whack, but like I said, it's a double-edged
Can
sword.
be rad sometimes.
Rad whack? I don't know.
If you could, well, this isn't rad or whack, this is just a random question. If you could, would you prefer to shoot film over digi, or what do you think?
You know, I would, for sure. You slow it down, take less shots, because you think about it, like, you know, how many images, you know, in Nepal I shot 11,000 images. And, you know, I narrowed that selection down to 500 of, like, my best shots. So you're like, what are all the other shots, you know? But it's like, you know, they're all, you know, A, B, and C grade, you know, but, you know, when I came into it, it had just been the digital switch. So I've never really professionally worked on a job where I've solely relied on film. And like, not that I'm not down, but like I don't have that workflow as much as I do with digital. And so like I still have film. I have a ton of film cameras, and I shoot like, you know, I have this tiny little shitty point and shoot film camera that I throw like Ilford like 800 in, and just shoot family stuff, like grainy, just horrible looking, you know. my problem with film, and it's not necessarily with film, is like you just get these hipster people that aren't really good at photographers, and they think that since they shoot film, it's like a good photo.
Yeah,
that shit bugs me.
That dude, I hate that shit too.
You know, because you've worked a lot and shot a lot of film stuff, which I've seen, like all your Hasselblad stuff, which is awesome. But you see like these, these girls are like, yeah, it's just 35 mil, like, like they want to tell you that it's a film shot.
Yeah, to make you think it's good.
And it's like, well, that's a shitty photo, regardless if it was film or digital.
Yeah.
And just because it's film, why would it make it that much better?
Yeah.
Well, because you had someone develop it for you at the lab? Like, I don't know. But I love it, man. Like a big inspiration for me, was Cole Barish.
Sick photographer.
Yeah, and like look at him now, he thinks his probably snowboard industry is whack, and I just saw a recent interview which was I thought really funny, was kind of his like exit to the snow world was when I know who it was, and I know what publication it was because I remember this. It was quite some years ago. He got super pissed because he'd shot a photo and was like, all right, you give the editors your DNG and you're like, it's cropped in, it has your edits to it or whatever. And so the art director cropped in his photo from maybe a horizontal to make it vertical, but like totally, it's not just like cropping a cover.
Yeah, exactly.
But like total like recomposition.
Butchered
it. And he was just like, what the fuck? You can't do this,
Yeah.
Like, this is so whack. And he was out, but I don't know if that was the full story, but it's interesting to look at him now, and I think he just only shoots film.
Yeah.
And his stuff is amazing, and I grew up because I think we're probably about the same age, and just he had such a cool story of being at in Burton Open at like 14, like Blotto's giving him tips or whatever, and when he was coming up, I just loved, there's that one, you always have that one person who has just like every single photo is just such a unique angle and such a unique guy, and that was him. And so I think he definitely had a lot of play on inspiration when I was kind of figuring stuff out and looking up. And I always looked to his photos for sure for a lot of inspiration. But he's totally only film, and it's cool to see kind of where he's gone to and all the projects that he works on. And he's I don't know him at all. I met him like once super quick, but he's definitely an awesome photographer, and he's totally film, and I respect it 100%.
Yeah.
But it's just like those, not necessarily chicks, but just anyone in general thinks that because you start photography and you have a film camera and you're so
it's
cool.
artsy.
It's like
good photo.
Film doesn't make the photo artsy.
Yeah, but no, I love that, man. I wish I could shoot more, for sure.
So then my last, because I get 3 questions too, right?
I mean, that was your third. But
but that wasn't rad or whack.
Okay.
Print these days.
What do you?
Rad or whack?
It's rad. Yeah, I love print. Anything print is awesome. I love to print stuff. I wish I used to do run a print shop kind of, and I had access to like a massive large format printer, and I would print like 8 foot by 10 foot of my images, and it was like
sick.
The coolest thing I've ever did. And I wish I printed more photos, and I need to get on that. I actually have a whole folder sitting on my desktop of like need to be printed.
Yeah. Just
personal stuff, because you think of like back in the day, or even now, like you go back to your parents' house and you're going through all these like shoe boxes full of 4x6s of your whole they don't have a catalog. It's not digital.
Yeah.
And so I need to have that more. I need to have more prints.
Totally.
That's
I was like, even that one I gave my mom for Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
She was so hyped on that.
Yeah,
just like it's just a tree.
And it's like what, $5-10 or whatever.
Yeah.
I think if you're a photographer, that's always the best gift to anybody. Just if you're thinking about them, or just for Christmas or whatever, sending them a print, even if it's just a small one.
I'll trade you art and we'll get an Andrew one for the dojo.
All right, let's do it.
I love it.
I'm down.
All right, then on the show we do, I guess I'm nerd on photography yet, but we do 3 favorite snowboarders. You can jump in, so it's your favorite contest dude, your favorite rail guy, and your favorite POW guy.
Contest dude, without a doubt, Danny Davis.
Sick.
100%. Rail guy. I'm down for Keegan.
Oh yeah.
I like Keegan.
Keegan's the best.
Yeah,
You can tell he just like like he's just there at the spot and he's just snowboarding. He's not like thinking about it too much.
I'll be honest. I'm not on. Or Louis too. Louis sick. My rail like knowledge isn't as good as it once was, or I don't follow it as much. But Keegan and Louis are super sick. I'm sure there's a guy that I could be missing. But I mean, I grew up with that stuff, man.
It's awesome.
Like Brian Thien, Scotty Whitlake.
Yeah.
Mikey, dude, all that OG guys like Nixon Jet, like Jeffy, like all those guys. So Kevin Jones, I love that stuff.
And then Pal.
Now he's really gonna hurt feelings.
Yeah. Oh man. There's just like. There's so many.
We'll do current. So you can like take away. That's the hard one.
Manuel.
Okay. Hell yeah.
And I want to see more of him. You know, or you know what, or Blair.
Blair's one of my favorites too.
I align with kind of the more like dark horse dudes, for sure. Because like, you know, those guys are the shit. And
incredible style.
Yeah, you should do something like best frontside turn or backside turn. Then that would be cool.
Do it right now. Best frontside turn.
Probably Dirksen or.
Ohm's got a pretty savage.
Ohm, yeah. But on groomers, but like, Dirksen for sure. Toe side would be Jones, 100%. Dirksen and Jones, if you're talking OG.
Yeah.
Look at, like, you shoot with, I remember the first time shooting a good toe side with Jeremy, and I was just like, whoa, this guy, because he was a snowboard racer back in the day.
Yeah, I've seen a carving shot of him, and it's just like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's so funny because, like, doing kind of the Jones social, and you see, like, the impressions of what gets what, and, like, he's doing his Life of Glide right now, and there's these video clips of him just doing, like, insane toe turns, like what you're talking about on the Storm Chaser or whatever, and the impressions of that are just like off the charts. And then you see his like stuff in Alaska where it's like the gnarliest thing, and he's like, man, if you would have told me that everyone wants to see me doing a toe turn on groomer, I got it all day. He's like, I got it all day. He's like, then I'm good for another 20 years. You know, it's pretty funny, but it's interesting to see edge control and to go back to tie photography into that, my number one pet peeve is bad slash photos.
Same here. I think you ingrained that in me.
I hope I did.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing where that's probably the number one thing that like will make me turn a page or scroll up even faster is a bad slash photo, because the photographer doesn't know when to pick the right angle or like the right frame, because like every slash there's three shots. If you're getting a good slash, you're getting 3 or 4 good images out of it. Yeah. Or B, the rider doesn't know how to turn, and most of it's B. And kind of a funny story is like when I started shooting with more like bigger name guys, to realize like how many people do not know how to do a real turn. It's like way more than you would expect. Yeah. Your favorite riders don't know how to turn.
That's pretty funny.
You could do a quad cork, fucking triple McNugget, but you can't even do a toe side turn. I don't know. Dude, take it back to the basics.
We went to the Uintas last winter, and I'm not saying like who we went up there with, and it wasn't their fault, but they just kept trying to jump off all this like stuff that wasn't good to jump off. And I was like, dude, literally, just do a fucking pow turn, man. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's all you have to do. Yeah. And they wouldn't fucking do it, dude. Yeah. And we didn't get any good shit.
Because they know.
Yeah.
And then another thing, too, is like, in video clips is like, this is for you, Jerm. Like, if you're filming someone who's doing a big turn and they come out of that turn with no speed, never use that clip. Yeah. Ever. It's garbage. Delete.
Yeah.
Dude, I need to take some lessons from this guy. I know I've definitely been guilty of posting some fucking sog-ass slashes. It goes back to the Instagram shit where I'm like, I gotta post something. What am I gonna post? Oh, this shit's like, it's good enough. It's Instagram.
Look at that. Look what Instagram is doing to you. It's forcing you to post to something that you are like searching for, you know, and you're like, you're even on the fence about it, but you're like, I gotta do something. So it's like, when in doubt,
and those will get likes too. That's the funny
people
thing.
Don't know.
Like,
I mean, it's
there's
stupid.
snow spraying.
But like when you hang out with guys who really know how to turn, like Brian, Brian
Yeah.
Fox, he really knows how to turn. Blair, Matt Edgers,
Yeah.
Forrest, Yoder. Man, most of the guys.
When we went to Japan, I was like blown.
Yeah,
like,
but you,
was fucking
it's
blown.
And it's cool to see the progression.
He was trained, dude.
He was, yeah. Like to see you from the beginning of like, oh yeah, you know, like kind of messing around, and then like that last day, I was like, damn, Griffin, like that was insane. Like you,
hands behind the back, grip turn.
Yeah, but like he followed home, and he was like his hands, and Nick Russell
is a good turn.
That's probably. Nick Russell's in there with my top 3 like turns.
What I like about Nick is how much he loves snowboarding.
Yeah,
it's like you can
he's
see
the best. Nick's the best.
Tried and true.
Yeah, I feel like that he should get way more support than. Yeah, it's just a hard thing. It goes with photographers or riders. It's like you see these people who are crushing it and they're not getting the support that they should, or they're not getting the images that they should run. And then you see the people who are like just friends with everybody and super cool with that whole scene, which I'm not. You know, but they could be a soggy photographer or even like kind of like a soggy rider, and they're like, you're like, how's that? You know, how's that?
Yeah.
But you know, everyone has their own
personality.
Everyone has their own style, and you know, like everyone's gonna do it, and more power to them if that's their style. But
stay true to you.
Stay true to you, and you know, like I guess that's all you can do. So.
Yeah. Well, hell yeah. Any future plans for Mr. Miller?
Man, you know, I want to get this house sold. It's been a massive pain in my ass. I just was the past 3 days like.
We're crossing our fingers. Sam texted.
Yeah, so Sam go buy my house. I just I just stoked to get home to the girls and you know, so thankful to have like an amazing like wife. You know, I've been married. Since, like we've been together since 11th grade.
So awesome.
And she's just so down to like support all my stuff and as I am to her and like my daughter it's just been cool to. I just want to like get my little compound, you know, whether it be in the Sierras or wherever, and have a sick house and then just kind of do my thing and hopefully keep living the somewhat of a dream as long as possible. But who knows? You know, it's like who knows what will happen with just everything in general. You know, with the industry, and so I'm just gonna keep doing my thing regardless, and
it's good to hear. Well, thanks for coming on. Me and Bob can come visit you, climb and
dude,
Hot
do it.
Spring.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, guys.
That was sick.
Dude, that's the shit.
For sure.